Thanos is a 9-foot-tall, bulletproof alien who wears a solid gold pimp gauntlet containing crystallized aspects of creation. An enduring villain in Marvel canon, Thanos is arguably one of the most recognisable villains in all of fiction at the time this video was recorded. A fact that makes it kind of hilarious that the Mad Titan's origins can be traced back to an artist being instructed to rip off a competing property especially hard.
So, who did they rip off?
Well, comic fans will probably already know this one. The character that they ripped off to make Thanos was Darkseid, a similarly large and powerful alien hailing from the DC Comics universe, who is known as one of the most powerful entities in all of DC canon. And one of my favourite facts about him is that he beats the living shit out of everyone he fights with his hands behind his back like a boss.
I don't know why, but when I was asking like who did they rip off, I was thinking like a character called slightly different name, like
Thanos.
Thanos. So you know when you get the really cheap toys that rip off.
The
obvious.
sense of right alliance, yeah. And just from that description and the appearance of both characters you can see behind me, you'd think that Thanos' origins would just be as simple as the creator of Thanos, Jim Starlin, directly ripping off the look of Darkseid and then just changing a few details. But the actual story is a lot more stupid and convoluted, which I think makes more sense because we're talking about comic book characters here. And before we move on to that, we just need to talk about Darkseid because he's not really got on his dues in live action yet. I know he appears in like the Zack Snyder version of the Justice League, but his appearance is terrible because he doesn't fight with his hands behind his back.
So is Darkseid meant to be like an old character? Because you know how you see elderly people walking around with hands behind their back, and imagining like that, like he's in his 60s or his 70s just walking around beating people up while his hands are behind his back.
It's more as a display of his confidence that he does not guard himself at all because he does not think your attacks are going to phase or hurt him. But that is a quite common trope in martial arts. The old man who stands with his hands behind his back and challenges the young whippersnapper to come at him. It's representative of their confidence in their skills to fuck you up. And Darkseid's like that, it's all he does, hands behind his back. And he has some of the best moments in the animated shows where he comes to Earth and kicks the fuck out of Superman. And it results in one of the best speeches Superman has ever given in anything, where he's just talking to Darkseid I constantly have to walk around like the world is made of cardboard. If I accidentally flex too hard, I might shift a tectonic plate. But with you, I don't have to be careful. What this is a rare opportunity to cut loose or something like that, and then Darkseid beats him. It's this was such a badass moment until Darkseid just clocks him one.
Had enough.
Not quite yet.
He's basically like the Jiren, isn't he?
He is. He's like the Endgame boss of DC. It's like when you want to shout, oh shit, it's getting real, bring Darkseid in. Preferably with his hands behind his back, like a fucking pimp. And as I mentioned, the Zack Snyder version of Darkseid is just terrible because he doesn't fight with his hands behind his back. So he's just like a rampage. It's like, oh, come on. Bringing it back to the creator of Thanos, Jim Starlin, by his own admission, he drew a lot of inspiration, quote unquote, for the people who aren't watching this video but listening to it in the background, from the new gods in DC, specifically the character of Metron, who, for those who aren't familiar with the character, spends most of his time flying around on a giant knowledge throne. And you can see where the Thanos inspiration comes from there, can't you? Where Thanos spends almost all of his live action appearances sat on his throne, or just sat down.
He's just sat.
It's one of the things I like about Thanos, almost every scene he's in, he's just sat down. It's like in the Endgame fight. He just sat down in the middle of the battlefield waiting for them to come to him. It's like, well, I don't need to find you, you're going to fight me.
What you been doing?
Absolutely nothing.
Bringing it back to the creation of Thanos, you'd think such a blatant example of borrowing would be noticed by Marvel hierarchy straight away, and that's true because Jim Starlin's editor, Roy Thomas, immediately noticed that early concept art for Thanos was just a rip-off of Metron. And at this point in the story, you'd think that Roy Thomas would be pissed off because he's stealing someone else's idea, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
That's not exactly the case because whilst he noticed that Thanos at the time was just a rip-off of Metron, he wasn't pissed off that it was a rip-off. He was pissed off that it was a rip-off of one of the more boring characters in the New Gods, with Thomas reportedly quipping, if you're going to rip off one of the New Gods, why not rip off Darkseid? Essentially giving Starlin permission to go and rip off one of the New Gods even harder. Which is why Thanos and Dazzler look exactly the same.
It's like, yeah, if you're going to copy someone, just do the better one.
Yeah, if you're going to rip off one of their characters, rip off the good one.
Yeah.
Why would you not rip off the cool one? Why would you no one knows Metron, Darkseid's rad, rip him off. And that's how the origins of Thanos can be traced all the way back to an editor for Marvel giving precisely 0 fucks about one of his artists committing blatant plagiarism and in fact encouraging them to go out and rip off a competing property even harder. You wouldn't get away with that today, would you?
No.
Is that you just look at them like they look exactly the same?
Unless you make like the cheap knockoff toys.
Oh,
They're my favourites.
They're not the obvious plant ones, aren't there? Where it's like, let's find the obvious plant one, because that's the one everyone's going to be referencing there. So people don't know obvious plant is, as the name suggests, a guy who goes out there and plants fake objects in the world and purports them to be real, and people fall for it all the time. And obvious plant is one of those hallmarks of the internet that when their stuff like comes up and people think it's real, I can't quite believe it. It's like, this guy's been doing it for so fucking long. We got one here like, Sesame Street, elbow. It's elbow. It's not Elmo, it's elbow. And it says on it, we are good friends. And the guy goes out and he makes these and he leaves them in shops. And people take photos and like, look what I found in this rip-off shop. Like, that's the Marvel one he did. And I'm always amazed that people think these are real because they say on them, obvious plant. So here we go. It's the Revengers. So would you like to see the Revengers, Nisha?
Please, yes.
I don't think anything sums up how much people fall for these. That I found this image on like iFunny as, wow, look at this really bad Avengers rip-off I found. And it's not. It's like, it's an obvious plant. We have here, Nisha. I'm going to hand you the thing.
Okay.
And I want you to turn the laptop round and then just we'll get your live reaction to them. So I want you to just describe what you see to the audience.
Oh my god. Revengers, endless tussle. Incredible fella. Regular raccoon. Token girl. Nighty night.
You don't got to the best one yet.
Oh my god. Detective horse. Fedora Ron. Hacker boy. Greg.
Yeah. It's all about
Fucking
Detective
Greg.
Horse. And then it has the warning on the bottom, Nisha. Can you read the warning for the kids at home?
Warning. Choking hazard. Do not eat the raccoon.
People fall for this.
You can eat everything else.
It says on it, obvious plant. There are though some like famously bad rip-offs out there. Like I think we've mentioned before, is it the Sense of Right Alliance, which we're going to bring up because the Sense of Right Alliance is amazing. Which is like one of those like Chinese knockoff toys that you find that's just like put a bunch of random superhero crap in there. So it starts like you know, quite obviously with Shrek and Spider-Man. But then we go across. We get Batman and Superman. It's pretty strong team so far. You go across and you've got a Power Ranger, but then a car, and it's a car from Cars. That's the best one.
Epic team.
What an unstock. It reminds me a little bit of, I think it was Xbox, when they were doing one of their reveals one year of like E3. And they have like the splash screen that has like all their iconic characters in it. Like Joe PlayStation have done it where it's like, oh, you've got Lara Croft, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, then you get some new ones, you got Nathan Drake and stuff. Yeah. When Xbox tried to do it, they had like Master Chief, I want to say Lara Croft, even though she's from PlayStation, and then like the car from Forza, because they didn't have enough characters, so they just had like a series, but they had no character representing that series, so they just picked the car from Forza. So everyone's like, put Forza car in Smash Bros, do it. And there's other people on the packaging that aren't in the case, and they include Donkey, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, another Power Ranger, and what appears to be a Transformer. I want one of them so much. I would pay an ungodly amount of money. Actually, no, I would pay some amount of money to have one of those, to have it on the desk here, just all the knickknacks we have on screen.
Yes. Oh my
And
God,
we should probably explain this, because I think this has appeared in a bunch of videos, and people keep asking, why is there dog food on the desk? And the story is really depressing, but I'm going to tell it so I don't get asked any more questions about it. And it's when my dog, Penny, passed away, I didn't get much chance to take anything of hers, because my mum didn't want anything of hers in the house, and she threw away everything to do with the dog.
Yeah.
And I wanted a knick-knack as a souvenir, it's like, you know, a reminder of the dog. And the only thing that was left was this dog food in the cupboard.
Oh.
Because my mum couldn't look at anything. She's like, I didn't want it in the house. So she threw everything away except for this. And that's the last thing we could find, so I took it. Maybe we can get the Sense of Right Alliance to replace this. It's a bit of a less depressing knick-knack.
How long have you had that?
Let's have a look when it ran out. This, I don't think it has. It expired in 2018. So if it expired in 2018, but how long does tin food last? A good, like 5, 6 years.
About 5 years, isn't it?